Hi again. So what we're going to try and do today is get the side casing sorted out, which essentially means the kickstart and the clutch activator. Just because I was bored a few days ago, I've already put back the kind of kickstart ramp. I've just put it roughly in the middle, gives me room to adjust it either way. So that's in and sorted. So what I did, unfortunately, I had to get a new kickstart shaft because I don't know whether it'll show up on camera, but the threads on this one, the splines, are completely hashed. This is the old one. So what I had to do was make sure that the distance from where the circlip goes there to where it sits inside the casing there is the same length, because they come in different lengths. So I've got a new one which is the correct distance. Happy with that. Lovely new splines, job's a good one. However, when I put this one inside as a bit of a dry fit and then put the casing on, there was a slight issue in that this area around here was just catching on the end of the clutch, and then this was a kind of more beefed up version, so it's stronger than the original one, and when you look, there's a lot more metal around these areas here compared to this one. This round here is very, very thin. This is a lot thicker, but that meant that it was just a bit too thick on that area there. So what I've done, I've just ground that away around there just enough so that it now doesn't touch. And what I can do is put that in, put the casing on, and this is obviously without a gasket. The gasket is going to be 1/2 mil thick, which is going to raise that a tiny fraction more. But the key point now, just move you around a little bit. The key point now is that this actually is not, I can move it round, it's not touching the clutch at all, it's in position, so that's all good to go now. So I can assemble the side case. So with regard to the clutch activator, as I see it, I've got a circlip which I've already put on. That arm goes down inside there. There will be a little O-ring, and then above that there will be a washer. Now I've seen some videos where it's going to take 2 washers to pack out, and having done a very quick dry fit myself, I think I'm going to need 2 washers. That arm will then appear out the bottom here, and it will need another washer, then another circlip, then the actuator, the actual lever goes on, and then there's another circlip that clips that into place, and on the outside I've then got the sort of returning spring, and then I've got my actual clutch arm goes there, but they can go on after separate, it's fine. So I think what I need to do is basically fit it. I'm going to try doing 2 washers on the outside to pack it nice and tight, put a bit of grease on that, and let's just see how it comes together. put the O-ring on the shaft first. So that's an okay. It's going to be a tight fit down in here, but I think that's obviously the idea. So we have a washer first, and I think just about enough room to get the other circlip on. Now it may be, I'll see if I can fit it this way. It may be better to fit this one first and then fit that one after. Let's have a go. Seems to be an okay. Okay, so activator goes on. Well, I've just pinged the circlip across the garage. No idea where that's gone. Fortunately, we have a ready supply. Okay, so that looks nice and tight. We have a good seal at the top, so happy with that. So we need to fit the spring so that the kinked inward bit goes into the kickstart. So that goes there. Goes there. So that goes in. And the really tricky bit, and I'm really struggling, is to get that oil seal over there. So next stage is I need to get this located around there with the location pin. Now, I've already put in a circlip in the bottom of there, which then has that kind of sitting on top of it there. Then that will go in along with a spring which sews up in there, sits down on there, which pushes that out, and then finally this locating pin goes in there, which comes out at the side of there and locates in there. So I think what we need to do is to get this gripped in the vise so that I can turn it round. So I've got the Kickstart on just to give it some grip, loads and loads of padding not to scratch it, because what I'm going to do is sweep this around like that so that I can then fit the pin inside the ramp. That is the plan. I'm not sure whether I have the recorder on for that. But anyway, by pushing that round, I was able to screw the locating pin into place, hold it with my body, and then when I let go, it then engages. And you can see that as you use the Kickstart, it goes down that ramp, and this engaging mechanism comes out and will engage in first gear to turn the engine over. Good with that. So we have Kickstart mechanism done, and we have a clutch activator mechanism done. Took some doing, but we're there. Right, I'm just going to stick the Kickstart buffer, which goes in there. That's 20mm in depth, that's 15mm in depth, so there should be about 5mm of that sticking out when I've pushed it in. So I don't know whether this is going to be a battle or whether it's going to be easy. Short answer to that is it's going to be difficult. I think what I might do is chamfer one edge to make it pushing in a little bit easier. So that's in, and it's sticking out, well, 6mm. I think we're happy with that. So to get the correct position starting point for the Kickstart, that pin needs to be just at the start of the ramp. So again, if I can, the ramp starts there, so that pin needs to be just on the flat bit before the ramp, and at the same time the Kickstart stop needs to be up against the buffer. So that's what I need to work out how to do next. Okay, so on that spline there, the starter's up against the buffer and the pin is definitely in the wrong position. So if I move it around one spline and move it down, so the Kickstart is up against the buffer and now it's much too far round. So what I think I need to do is go for the previous spline there, one way, on to that spline there. But to get the maximum amount of kick, I need to move the whole kickstart ramp clockwise, which will move that pin further up. So I think I'm going to try that next. That looks pretty good. So the kickstart pin is just on the end of the flat bit before the ramp starts. The kickstart is up against the buffer, which I think now is going to give me the maximum length of kick. So that's going to engage fairly quickly. Probably gauges about an inch or so. I think it'll start to engage. So that seems pretty good. So I'm just going to quickly type. Right, while I'm on the side case, I'm going to add on, just so I don't lose them basically, I've got a breather valve which goes in the top there. I've got a drain plug or filler plug which goes there. And then the lower drain plug has also got some magnets on which are going to catch any cack, and that's going to go there. So I'm going to put those three on now just lightly. I've also got a gasket for each, and this way I won't lose them. So, good afternoon's work. We've now got our kickstart lever in. We've got 3 drain plugs in with their fabric washers. On the inside we have our clutch activator mechanism in place. Just got to add the arm on the top. And we have a kickstart mechanism now, which is just positioned nicely when the kick starts on. Just at the start of just before the kickstart ramp starts, which means at the kickstart we only have about it's probably like less than an inch of travel before the kickstart mechanism engages, which means we're going to get the longest kick possible when it comes to start the wee beastie. So happy with that. It's another job done. I think the only thing left really on the main engine now is put the two halves together. I need to put a gasket on. Inevitably some of the holes on the gasket don't line up exactly with the holes on the casing, so I'm going to have to get a sort of hole punch little toolkit sorted to do that. They're only a £5, so that's easily enough done. Then I can put the two halves of the engine together. I'm going to put a little bit of engine oil in, gearbox oil, so that every now and then I can swill it around. I can sort of turn it over with the kickstart just to keep it lubricated whilst I get on with the frame. But I feel like we've made some significant progress. Okay, so we have some very nice quality gaskets for putting the crankcases back together, but I think, as I mentioned, the holes don't quite line up all the way around. There's little bits where they're just off centre. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the best fit that I can. I've then got some workshop hole punches, so I can mark where I want to do a little bit of extra hole punching and just punch a tiny little bit wider on each one that I need to, in order to get it to fit over all of my studs, because at the moment it won't. It's not far off, but I just need to do a little bit of fiddling. So we're going to see how this works out. So what I've done, I've gone around, I've got a few located, and then I've just marked up which side I need to just expand the holes on. So I'm just going to do a couple at a time, work my way around and make sure it, rather than try and do them all in one go and get it wrong, I'll just do a couple at a time and see how it then pieces together. So that's right then, before I seal it up, I'm going to put in some crankcase oil, not a full amount, but I'm going to give a good drizzle over all of that, seal it up so that every now and then I can kind of turn the engine over with the Kickstart just to keep things lubricated while I crack on with the bodywork. Ooh, that was close, and none of you reminded me to put the clutch thimble on, did you? Fortunately, I did remember. So there's a little thimble that goes on clutch plate there, and that will be what the clutch activator here pushes against. Nearly forgot. Got away with murder. Right. So now we want and there we have it. We have basically a built engine. Obviously it doesn't include the exhaust, doesn't include the carb, doesn't include the stator plate and flywheel, but they're effectively kind of bolt-on things. Rear hub, nothing's, that's the old rear hub, I need to put a new one on, need to do the brakes, but they're pretty much the same as the Vespa, so that should all be reasonably straightforward. So I'm thinking now we're probably in a position to spend more time sorting out the bodywork and effectively doing a bit of a dry fit and getting all these panels to fit together correctly, so I can then start thinking about painting, moving forward from there. But that's another big step done. Probably call that phase one of the build finished.